Hey everybody, welcome to FL Teams Live. Uh Joining me as quite often we are the two people probably on the most of these. Jeremiah Hensley is here with me, Jeff Macolino. How are you doing, Jeremiah?
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. Ready to talk some NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah, I was going to say we got NHL free agency kicking off and Major League Baseball at the All-Star break. So let's talk NFL football.
Yeah. Hey,
It's what the people want. I will say the Lightning made a ton of moves today, and there is a short video coming with some of my thoughts on that. Obviously, you should be subscribed to FL Teams wherever you're watching this, so that you can catch all of the great content that we're putting out for you. So today, what we are going to do is gonna break it down division by division, and we are going to rank the AFC quarterback situation for each team. And we actually have a visual aid for this one too. We will be actually ranking them on this, whatever you call this. So let's dive into it. We're just going to do the AFC this week, and then probably next week we'll get to the NFC situations. Let's get started in the AFC East. I don't know if you want to talk team by team, or if you want to go with I think it's pretty obvious as far as who's number one in this division with their quarterback situation.
I would beg to differ. I might go
Oh,
homer on you. I might go
oh
homer
boy.
on you. Look,
I
we're
think
talking
I think the
situation.
AFC East we're going to disagree in the AFC East. I think because I'll full disclosure, I've got my list with my rankings sitting here,
Put them
and
up. Let's go. And then we'll run it back.
yeah, so I've got in order Bills, Patriots. You're not going to like this. Jets and Dolphins.
Wow. Okay.
I have and I love Teddy Bridgewater, who is the backup for Tua. I love Teddy Bridgewater. I think he may be used the best backup quarterback in the NFL. So it's not necessarily the talent. In the I don't know, when I'm looking at that, I'm like, this is the only one where there may be some sort of at some point argument as to who should be starting this for this team.
You know,
Uh,
I'm quietly buying the Tua stuff, man. I mean, when you look at it, he's crazy, crazy accurate. I mean, he really is. I mean, accuracy's his game. And now you've
yeah,
got Waddle, and now you got Waddle, and then you bring in Tyreek. I mean, those are guys who are great yak, right? And you think McDaniel backing it up. Look, I don't think Tua is by any means the best quarterback in this division, not even close. Okay. Josh Allen is head and shoulders above. The only reason I say the Dolphins are higher is because if Allen were to go down, the Bills now go out with Case Keenum.
hmm,
If Tua goes down, Teddy Bridgewater is basically an older Tua, right? I
yeah.
mean, your offense doesn't change. Their strengths are the same. So that's the only way that I looked at it with that. I wanted so bad to put the Jets way higher just because Zach Wilson has become my hero this week. It's just, the guy has earned locker room cred. Like, I even tried to put on my best Jets green for him today. Zach, my boy. Um, but I mean, literally, I went through this with Buffalo at 1, Miami at 2, Pats at 3, Jets at 4. Um,
I can
Wilson,
yeah, I can see that.
Wilson, if Wilson either has the kind of year that he had before, you're going to Joe Flacco, right? I mean, Flacco's a step down. Um, and then the Pats got Brian Hoyer. I guess he's familiar with Belichick, so I think they're probably in good position. You could make an argument that they're 2, and maybe the Dolphins drop to 3. Um,
Yeah, no,
I'm the
I
homer
think
belief that 2 is better than Mac.
I certainly think looking at my rankings, I think I could make the case myself to flip flop the Patriots and Dolphins even. Mac Jones was good his rookie year, but we don't know that this is a consistent thing necessarily. He could hit that sophomore slump. Likewise, Zach Wilson was not nearly as good as Mac Jones last year, and I think maybe because of a little glimmer here and there I saw at the end of the year, maybe because he seems like a fun guy off the field. I see him taking strides forward. And I'm definitely being too hard on Tua. There is no doubt about that. We already got the comment from Miami TVG that Tua is S rank. Now, I will also let you know that while we're using this little graph here, neither Jeremiah nor myself are hip enough to have any clue what S stands for. But
Yep.
we know it's on the best. It's on the top, right?
Right. Hey, if you got that for us, Miami TVG, give it up.
Yeah.
But no, look, here's the deal. It's easy for anybody outside of Miami to be hard on Tua because the media is truly really hard on Tua. And he's earned a lot of it. I mean, I'm sorry. He's earned a lot of it. I'm under the tendency to believe that Mike McDaniel, he may be going too cool as a player's coach, but I mean, he's going to luau's with Tua. I mean, like, he is basically pushing every chip he possibly can in on Tua, where Flores did everything he could to pull every chip away, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we'll know for sure. And if Tua plays up to near potential, he's got weapons that'll make him look good. But I could see Buffalo at 1 just because Josh Allen is so far ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, I think so. So looking here at our ranking, this is my biggest debate is, are we putting the Bills all the way up here or here? I would make the argument, if this is, off-season fun that I have with my son, hypothetical, if every player was stripped from their team and you redrafted the entire NFL, I think Josh Allen would probably be the 2 or 3 guy off the board.
Yeah.
Probably, behind Mahomes and maybe Herbert, maybe Burrow. I would probably take Allen over both of those guys right now. So what are your thoughts? Do we put them all the way at the top level, or we keep them here? Because this is
let's
not that
go
we can't move it
ABCD. It's
later.
what we know. Right. It's what we know. So, but look, I'll tell you that the guys that you mentioned in that top, here's what we don't know about Tua, and we don't know about Wilson, and we don't know about Jones. Do they got that dog in them? I'm sorry to go old school on it, but do they? And Josh Allen does. Josh Allen, when he had less talent around him, was still throwing the ball in places he shouldn't throw because he was confident enough that he could do it. Right. And that's Burrow the same way. That's Herbert. Like, those guys got a little bit of extra edge that we just haven't seen from these other guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I could give you the Pats at 2. I mean, I can't put the Dolphins below. I cannot put them below the Jets, even though, again, Zach Wilson is my hero.
Yeah. So throwing these guys up on the board, I think the case could be made. The remaining 3 AFC East teams are all pretty clumped together. I think, I think there's with this division, probably more than the rest of them, there's a lot of, again, other than Josh Allen, there's a lot of what are the second years going to look like for Mac and Zach? What is Tua with a new coach, with some trust in him? What is he going to take some strides forward? And again, the big thing is he's got maybe the best weapons in the NFL around him. I think the argument could be made. So he better take some steps forward real fast.
So as the FL teams in homer count, we'll throw the Dolphins at 2. There it is.
We agree with putting them in the B
We'll
grade, kind of in the middle.
Yep.
And then the Jets and Patriots, I think it's safe to put the Patriots there too.
Yeah.
The Jets,
right with them.
The Jets are interesting. One thing that's interesting to me too is Joe Flacco being the backup, you know, he was a good quarterback for Baltimore. Not great, but he was good. He's not that old. Um, if not for Baltimore drafting Lamar Jackson, he might still be starting in Baltimore. Obviously, the Jets don't want him starting. They want Zach Wilson to stay healthy and take steps forward and be the starter. But they're another team that, and shout out to Mike White, who was a short-time USF quarterback as well.
Look, but here's the deal. Joe Flacco, to me, he's the Le'Veon Bell of quarterbacks. Le'Veon he was good. He was great in Pittsburgh, but he's never caught traction anywhere else. And I feel like that's the Flacco story. Flacco's bounced around since then in spots with opportunities to perform. I mean, you'd almost see, I could see Mike White. I mean, with the performance that he showed last year, I mean, if you're the Jets, what value do you have in keeping Joe Flacco taking second team snaps? This guy's on his way out. And if you've got Mike White, I don't know.
So, yeah, it would be interesting. It probably would depend on, I mean, if Zach Wilson's going to miss a month and the Jets are 3-3 or 5-5, go with Flacco, gives you a better chance to win, presumably. Sure. But yeah, if they're 2-8, why not? Why would you put Joe Flacco out there? Like, give Mike White a shot to just, see if he's got any value. Worst case scenario, he plays well and you have a quarterback controversy, or you have a trade asset.
Yeah.
So
we didn't talk about it much, but Hoyer found his way back to the Pats. He's like the little guy who returned home. Brian Hoyer found his way all the way back up to the Pats, so he can be a nice backup. So I mean that gives the Pats strength though, because he knows Belichick, he knows systems, he knows all that good stuff. It's a smart move.
Yeah, and I would say the one thing I'll say in defense of Mac Jones, he has the least weapons, I would say, out of any of the AFC East quarterbacks. He's not surrounded with superstar talent on that offense. They're pretty ordinary receivers, running backs. It's not like he's got, Waddle, Hill, and Gesicki to throw to. He's got kind of middle of the road players, frankly.
Well, but if Wes Welker taught us anything, then Devontae Parker is going to be the best receiver in the league next year.
Well, yeah.
If that happens again, dude. But yeah, they just got rid of N'Keal Harry. They really don't have a ton of weapons.
Yeah, so we'll see. He might have a sophomore slump. And our cheat sheet, or our grading scale, whatever the heck this thing's called, is obviously subject to change as we move forward.
Yes, sir.
So I think consensus, though, we've got Bills at the top. Probably consensus-wise, we'd agree the Jets are just a little bit below. Maybe not drastically, but just a little bit below. And the Dolphins and Patriots, I would say one thing with both of those teams, their quarterback situation, I don't think, will prevent them from being a playoff team.
They both got good defenses, and they've got enough. Miami's got enough talent on offense to hide some flaws. So yeah, and like I said, I hate to put the Jets down low. I've become a bigger Jets fan. It just really is. To think that Zach Wilson out of BYU is having extracurriculars with his mom's best friend, Zach. Well played.
Yeah, well done, young man. Yeah, the Jets, just to put a bow on them, it's one of those things that until we actually see it, we can't get. They've been so bad for so long. Just until we actually see it, giving him a C might be generous, frankly.
Skip a spot and go to D.
Yeah, just because I like Zach Wilson, you like Zach Wilson, but until they actually show us something on the field, it's tough.
Yeah.
Let's go to the AFC North, where my rankings are: there's two teams in great shape and two teams in terrible shape. One of which is only in terrible shape for a year, I would say, though. I'll just tell you my order and see how we match up. I have Bengals 1, Ravens 2. I think I'm going to change. I put the Steelers three and the Browns 4. I think I'd probably flip-flop them, not for this season, because the more and more I hear about everything, I don't think we're going to see Deshaun Watson this season. But in the future, presumably he will be back and playing quarterback. The Steelers have Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett. I like Kenny Pickett as a
I do
rookie,
too.
but and Mason Rudolph, who somehow is still in the league. How close are your rankings to mine there?
It's spot on. It's 100% spot on. I think you can't. Joe Burrow showed last year what he can do, and then behind that you got Brandon Allen, right, who can run a similar type offense again. So I think about that because if Lamar goes down, and you're bringing in either Tyler or Brett Hundley or Huntley, whichever you want to do, right? That offense changes dramatically, right? I mean, Lamar is so. I liked it when Baltimore had RG3 as the backup, right? I really did, because I'm like, then you can at least do something similar. So I think that's what puts Baltimore down. I love Kenny Pickett. I think Kenny Pickett should probably take that job, if not out of training. I mean, we know who Mitch Trubisky is, or Mitchell, or whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
We know who he is.
We don't know what he prefers to be called, but we know him as quarterback.
Yeah. So, and I think Pickett, and you know what? And Pittsburgh deserves to go to number 3 for selling the naming rights to that stadium to some insurance company you can't pronounce instead of Heinz Field. It's not going to be Heinz Field anymore. It's like Arcusign and something. It's ridiculous.
I'm not a fan of that.
Not a fan. And Cleveland, there's nothing more Cleveland than what Cleveland is doing right now. You guarantee a dude $230 million, then you pay Baker Mayfield to leave, and you're stuck with Jacoby Brissett. Like, how you could not have misplayed this hand or offseason any worse if you were Cleveland. You could have pacified Baker and not pissed him off to the point that he had to leave. Then you pay him to leave, and he's going to get to come back and play you in week 1 when you're marching. I would say marching, but I saw Jacoby Brissett last year with Miami. When you're walking Jacoby Brissett out onto the field, dude, his mobility was non-existent. It was bad. And I like Jacoby. I think Jacoby's done great work in the NFL, but I think that you can't rely on that.
No, and I'm thinking this Browns team, if any team belongs in this ranking level, again, I think presumably in the future Deshaun Watson comes back, and he's assuming 2 years of rust hasn't set him back at all. He's now I also would put the Steelers at this level until they got Kenny Pickett.
Yes.
They were a team that seemed like a no-brainer. They had to pick a quarterback, because how can you go into a season with Trubisky and Rudolph as your guys?
And how do you, with the quarterbacks who were going to be available, how do you end up with Trubisky? And I had Steeler fans that are friends of mine trying to convince me what an awesome move that was. I'm like, dude, you could have given up nothing for Jimmy Garoppolo, and then we could talk about being a good move. Like Trubisky, you brought in Mason Rudolph. I don't know. It's, so without the Kenny Pickett pick, I'm with you. They'd be sitting in the D down there with their boys.
I think it would have been hilarious. Not that the Browns I don't know if the Browns would have been able to avoid it if the Steelers tried to get Baker Mayfield. I don't, they were basically just trying to get rid of Baker no matter what they could get, and they finally got a little something from the Panthers.
You seriously couldn't have misplayed this any worse. Like, and from a Browns team that had started making strides, I mean, in the playoffs 2 years ago, and a great running game and building the defense, and you just throw a grenade into it. And I mean, Deshaun Watson is a special kind of athlete, but is he going to be able to bring this franchise back from this? Who knows?
Yeah, and it's a shame because they do, we had Dearness Johnson on FL Teams talking to him, and there's so many weapons on that Browns team. It's a shame that, you really, in the NFL, it's not it's not like the Lightning. I'm looking at the Tampa Bay Lightning. They go to 3 straight Stanley Cups. They lose a few players. They re-sign a bunch of guys to long extensions. The roster's mainly intact. It's hard to keep a bunch of talented weapons on offense together season after season. I
Sure,
don't.
and I mean, think about this. I mean, let's be realistic in this Cleveland situation. Say Deshaun gets an entire season. Okay, do you think Kareem Hunt and Chubb are going to be happy in a prime year of their season, basically losing that to a team quarterback by Jacoby Brissett? Do you think they're going to be all happy and waiting on this? Oh, well, he'll just come next year, so that's fine. You're a running back, 16, 17 games worth of damage is still you're losing career space while your team's front office. I mean, it can't be good. And yeah, Baker's cocky, but I can't believe everybody in the locker room thought he was an asshole. There had to be some Baker supporters in there too. And you couldn't have done it any worse if you were Cleveland, plain and simple.
No, I agree, and they're well deserving of being on the bottom rung. Here's where, in the ranking part that's interesting. This team is the one that's giving me trouble, the Ravens. I think we both agreed they're pretty clear cut. The Ravens are second in the division at quarterback. I don't think he's Josh Allen tier. It's like he's above Tua and Mac Jones, obviously.
Yeah.
I think obviously.
Sure.
I'd say he's also obviously a tier below Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Probably
maybe this is where the S comes into play.
Well, maybe I think we got to move the Bills up and maybe pop the Ravens here.
Yeah.
Burrow, I fully think he's a superstar, future Hall of Famer. Very little doubt in my mind about it. But since he only has 1 year of showing it on the NFL field, I'm okay with him still being at the A level. But yeah, I think we gotta. This is where we gotta bump Buffalo up to whatever S stands for.
Yeah.
Supreme.
Look, I told you. I think we talked about it during the Super Bowl breakdown and stuff. Joe Burrow is either a Hall of Famer or he's going to be the best 30 for 30 that ESPN's ever done. Because if he goes down, it's going to be in a blaze of glory. No,
he will. He'll make Baker Mayfield's situation look very, I think. I'm surprised we aren't seeing Joe Burrow in more commercials yet, but maybe he's too cool for that.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, he's not a sellout. He's not going to do insurance commercials like that clown from Cleveland.
Look, not yet, but let's remember, Dan Marino made a Super Bowl really quick too. And then when he wasn't getting back to the Super Bowls, he started shilling isotoners pretty fast. So, yeah. I mean, it's not going to be too long before we see Burrow.
Yeah, or maybe Burrow will star in Ace Ventura, Pet Detective 3 or whatever. Sorry, maybe a Bengal on the loose. And
I don't know.
There we go. Somebody write it. I just gave you the start to the movie.
There you go. Good luck getting Jim Carrey to come back down to that level because this dude's in space.
Yeah. He shot a couple Sonic the Hedgehog movies. But
Good call.
Maybe the most interesting division is who I have next, the AFC South. Is a division with a lot of young quarterbacks, except for one team. That team, I think, is head and shoulders going into the season in the best quarterback situation. Again, not long-term, but the Colts have Matt Ryan, who I think was a great pickup for them. Big upgrade. And their backup is Nick Foles, who wouldn't want Nick Foles as their backup quarterback, really? So I think they have a great win-now quarterback situation. And look, you talk about a guy going down and being comfortable with the backup. They have insurance behind Matt Ryan. Nick Foles has obviously shown the world he is capable of coming in and not missing much of a beat. I have the Colts way above the rest of the teams. I put the Jags second, the other AFC Florida team, mainly just because Trevor Lawrence's potential. I have the Texans third, just Davis Mills had a great rookie year. I need to see more from him. He had a better rookie year than Lawrence, but I'm still putting him below. And this is where I told you before we started recording, my 9-year-old son refuses to talk to me now because I put the Titans last. They've got talent. Tannehill obviously was a high pick for a reason back in the day for the Dolphins. And Malik Willis, everyone thought he was going to go a lot higher than he did, but obviously there's something that NFL teams didn't like about him. So I have him on the bottom.
Yeah, you look, I agree with you with Indianapolis. I think for this year, they may have the best quarterback situation in the league, right? I think rolling out Matt Ryan backed by Foles is one of the safer, starter backup relationships that you have. 2 for me was Tennessee. Tannehill has shown that he's playing solid. They do have to find a way to end the reliance on Derrick Henry, right? And I think maybe I ranked him 2 because even though people had tons of questions about Malik Willis, I think one of the things you can't question is his athletic ability. I got to think that he's going to get involved in that in some way, even maybe special packages or something. I don't know. 3, I went with Jacksonville because I do think Trevor Lawrence getting real NFL coaching is going to help him. CJ Beathard, I feel like we see him start 1 or 2 games a year somehow.
Seems like it.
Yeah, it seems like it. And here's the thing in Houston, I absolutely love Davis Mills. I don't think enough people said enough stuff about the way Davis Mills played last year, quietly under the radar with a Houston team that was going through a tremendous breakdown. And your only real weapon you had was Brandon Cooks. I like Davis Mills a lot. Sneakily kind of like Kyle Allen, too, as the backup. He's a younger guy that plays similar. But ultimately, I think Lawrence is just a better player than Davis Mills. Lawrence is probably or will be a better quarterback than Tannehill. I don't think what we saw in college was a fluke. I think Jacksonville could take a big leap this year. The Malik Willis over Beathard is what kind of put me there. But if we're ranking them out, I think, maybe Indy goes – I don't even know if you can you put Indy into an A? I mean, yeah, I guess.
It's hard for me as someone who's spent my whole life making jokes about Matt Ryan, since 2008. It's hard for me to put him there. But again, it's one of those things where I'd have a hard time saying, Matt Ryan, Nick Foles are on the same level as Tua and Teddy or Mac and Hoyer. The Colts being up there seems a little odd. But again, I think a lot of that is just Matt Ryan. That guy's been the butt of jokes for Saints fans since he was a rookie, but for everyone in the world since the 28-3 debacle, Matt Ryan's kind of a punchline. But so I think unfairly, he's a talented quarterback. I mean, I can say that now that he's out of the NFC South.
God love Indianapolis, they just keep swinging. Like since, Andrew Luck went away, they'll just take a swing on a quarterback. But I think this is the best swing they took. Phillip Rivers, I love, but they didn't get Phillip Rivers, right? I mean, he was, I think Matt Ryan still got a year or 2 left in him. So if we're going through that, then, I would say Lawrence and the Tannehill Titans, I could see being in that level of the Dolphins and Patriots.
I think it's fair to, I think Tannehill has shown, similar to what I said about Jones and Tua, is they're good enough that they're not going to cost their team a chance to make the playoffs. If the team around them's good enough to make the playoffs, I don't think any of these 3 quarterbacks, any quarterback in this B tier or below, is good enough to make your team a playoff team.
Sure.
I think they're good enough to get a playoff team to the playoffs. Yeah. And I would say the one thing the Dolphins and Patriots have over the Titans is there's potential, I think, in both of those scenarios that they could be star quarterbacks. I don't think Tannehill is going to turn into a superstar ever.
No.
I guess Malik Willis has potential.
You made a valid point, though, man. I mean, you have draft experts and pundits and all this other stuff, and yeah, there's misses. I mean, Brady went until the 5th round, but for the most part, if a guy falls that far, that means enough people and enough organizations have seen enough to say,
yeah,
So
especially at quarterback.
yeah,
it says something that NFL, none of them wanted him for quite a while.
Right.
I mean, it's not they got passed over one time by by every team.
Mhm.
He got passed over multiple times by every team.
And now with Jacksonville, I think Trevor Lawrence literally could jump into that range of the A, but right now I think he's a B. Right?
Yeah, I'm giving him an edge I didn't give Zach Wilson, where he needs to show me something too. But I feel like he showed me more in college to make me think it's less of a risk. And I hate putting Davis Mills, but I think you got to put him at that tier until he shows it again.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think he's a very well liked quarterback from almost anyone I've talked to. People like him. So it would be interesting. I think the Titans made a terrible move with their coaching change and everything. I watched, I don't know why I ended up watching a few Texans games down in the stretch, and they were playing hard for Cully.
He should have kept the job. He should have kept the job.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian Flores. But I think it does say something about Davis Mills that Houston didn't get involved in all this quarterback nonsense. Quarterbacks were flying all over the place, and they know where they're at. They're in a rebuild, and this kid showed enough to get another shot. And quietly, man. I mean, he played really well. And the Texans were hard out, man. They weren't. I mean, they were a hard out. They were rarely, especially at home. On the road, you might get them good, but dude, the Texans played some tough football.
Yeah, yeah. And again, they didn't have a lot of talent on that team. So it said a lot that they were out there playing hard. It's a shame that but frankly, that's what losing organizations do. They make moves that are not smart. That's the difference between good franchises and the Houston Texans. Not to be too rude, but it is what it is.
No, it is. Look, I joke again with my my friends who are Steelers fans. Pittsburgh it's like a crystal ball, man. There's something magic in the Rooneys or what they do, because from Plaxico to Mike Wallace to Le'Veon Bell to all those guys that they said, I'm not paying you, walk. And when they walked, they were never the player they were in Pittsburgh. It was like they found them at that tipping point and said, we know you're not worth it. Go ahead. And they've been right most of the time.
It's a hard thing, just because nostalgia, if nothing else. It's a hard thing to move on from a veteran when they're a little or reaching the getting past their prime. Some teams nail, a lot of them. Some teams just hold on to that guy, pay him way too much money, and watch him decline.
Yeah.
AFC West. If you were ranking the quarterbacks in the NFL, or ranking the divisions in the NFL, I was going to say just rank based on quarterbacks, but probably based on their full roster. The AFC West, in my mind, is head and shoulders above the rest of the NFL. Crazy division. So going through these rankings, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and throw them up here. I don't think there's any debate.
No debate. Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, again, in that redraft scenario, I think there's no doubt in my mind he would be my number one pick every single time.
Yeah.
So getting that out of the way, I have them number one. Number two, the Chargers, who I mentioned his name earlier, Justin Herbert. I think he could be the number two pick if you did a redraft of the entire NFL, potentially. I think Burrow, Allen would get some consideration, but what he's shown at a young age, the sky is the limit for Herbert. This is where I hated ranking these teams 3 and 4. The Broncos I put third because I think Russell Wilson is better than Derek Carr. And Derek Carr, I think maybe is a top 6 quarterback in the AFC, maybe. And I have him last in the division. Also, I don't love Nick Mullins as his backup, although I would say the backups in this division are all kind of ordinary, or uninspiring, maybe.
Yeah, Chad Henne still hanging around, Chase Daniel. I mean, guys who they're backups, and that's what you count on them because these guys don't miss a lot of games. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
This division is just going to be filthy all year, man. They're going to eat each other up. That whole AFC West is just going to be top to bottom. I mean, Russell Wilson, at least in what I've watched of him, has always been a guy who loves a challenge of I'm going to prove it to you, right? Whether it was you can't play baseball and football in college, right? All right, well then, but you're good enough to play baseball at NC State, but you can't play football. Great, I'll go to Wisconsin, right? And then gets out and he's a late pick, and he's kind of a throwaway, and he ends up taking the job by the beginning of camp. I think you put a challenge in front of Russell Wilson, he just seems like a dude who's gonna step to it, and he's got weapons. He has weapons. I think maybe one of the best backfields in the NFL because, I mean, I absolutely, dude, I love the kid from Carolina. I don't know why his name's skipping me right now, but he was my favorite back out of the draft last year. So I think he's got great running backs. He's got talented wide receivers. And I think Russ, I guess you put Russ maybe in that A,
Yeah, I think he's safely in there with potential to go up higher. I think you got to do the same thing with Carr.
Yep.
Here I'm putting Herbert up here. I'm putting Chargers.
He's a prototype, man. He is a prototype, and he's got that dog, right? Everybody said before, he wasn't a good leader. That was the whole going back and forth on Tua and Herbert for the Dolphins. Herbert wasn't a leader in college, and he didn't do this. Dude, I saw a lot of fight in him last year. I saw a ton of fight in him last year, and that team rallied around him hard. Like, he's gonna be around for a long time.
Yeah, it's a crazy good division. And what's going to end up, in my eyes, deciding it is obviously who can get through the divisional games. Also, the odds are one of these quarterbacks is going to go down for a month at some point, and I don't think there's going to be room to lose a few games. I mean, that's how tight the AFC West is going to be, and the AFC in general. I've said this before on one of our FL teams live is you look at the AFC, these teams here, and I think someone had said to me, and I stole it, but they said in the NFC, there's really maybe 4 teams that are competing to like competitors. In the AFC, there's maybe 4 teams that aren't. The power balance is that vast, I think. I think every really these bottom 4 teams, and only because Deshaun Watson, his situation, I think these 4 teams and probably the Jags are not going to be competitors. Would it shock you if any of these other teams were the AFC Super Bowl representative? Not really. Not me.
No. I mean, Baltimore last year, it gets brushed over a little bit, I think. I mean, I think they have one of the most injury-riddled years. On offense, they were down to the point of signing Le'Veon Bell to come in, for a couple of weeks. Like, their running backs dropped one after the other. To put together a running game there was near impossible. They were going with Devontae Freeman and stuff. It was rough. The trading of Marquise Brown, I think, hurts a little bit in that. But Baltimore getting healthy. I think in the AFC West, I think all year I'm going to be betting the over heavy until somebody tells me different. I'm not knocking the defenses in that division, but when they're playing each other, I mean, I think it might be last man with the ball, right? I mean, they really can just go back and forth like that.
Well, and what's crazy, I would say, aside from the Chiefs, not to be disrespectful to the Chiefs, but aside from the Chiefs, I'd say the other three teams, the Chargers, Broncos, Raiders, have an argument that they've got a playoff caliber defense. Screw the offense. Our defense is good enough to get to the playoffs. They were adding Khalil Mack to the Chargers and Chandler Jones, who still, to me, is maybe the most underrated signing of the offseason to the Raiders. That division is it's sick. And so, some things at some point, again, there's one of these teams is going to get hit with the injury bug. I mean, we saw it last year. You mentioned the Ravens. They had bad injury luck. The Titans had terrible injury luck. The Saints had God did not like the Saints last year. But it's just, that happens. So I'm sure that'll be the case with one of the teams. Is one silly little injury, a broken finger or something like that, is going to throw the whole division, blow one team's season. Because I don't think there's any room. I mean, I guess there's 3 wild card spots, but
the crazy thing is, if we really took this right and say in this magical world that there is no Deshaun Watson suspension, Deshaun's cleared to play week 1. If that were to happen, Cleveland becomes a legit Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
Legit. Easy. Right away. So they can go from the worst situation of a team to a legit contender. That's how special Deshaun really is. And that's how important the quarterback is. I firmly believe, look, I saw it happen last year, unless something crazy goes on. I watched Jacoby Brissett try to manage 3 or 4 games to just get Tua where, Flores said he was healthy. And it was miserable. It was bad. We had no semblance of any kind of offense. And if you're really stuck to deal with that for 6 games, you're starting way behind. Further back than Willie Mays Hayes starts his sprint in Major League, right? You got to have some closing speed, and Deshaun ain't that fast.
Yeah, and look, the one thing I'll say is if they come out and he ends up only getting a 6-game suspension, the Browns actually have a pretty cushy early part of their schedule.
Mm-hmm. And they got and they can run the ball. I mean, they can run the hell out of the ball with Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, and just really run this thing as much as you can possibly do it. They're successful when they do it that way. So, you could maybe slide 1 or 2 wins out of that just by, run the ball 40 times. Belichick did it.
I would have, I'm not kidding, I would have a backfield strategy at times, going back to the Miami Ricky Williams, Ronnie Brown days. I would have Dearness Johnson line up taking snaps out of shotgun with Hunt here and Chubb here. Dearness Johnson, I just happen to know from watching him at USF, he can also throw the ball. So, you can design a trick play. I believe he's a lefty. Not that has anything to do with it, but it's I would run that kind of offense. Just look, I got 3 talented running backs. This is how we're going to move the ball until or unless Watson comes back.
The old wing T, man. The old wing T. Just bring it back. And everybody said that sort of stuff couldn't work, but Miami did turn the NFL on its head for 1 season. Defensive coordinators hadn't seen it. They weren't ready for it. And you had talented running backs, and you had Chad Pennington as your quarterback, right? So what do? You get creative. You got to think Cleveland's preparing some of that. They have to, because they know, I feel so bad because Jacoby Brissett seems like such a good dude. He really does. And he had good years as a backup. But, I think it's done now.
Yeah, and there's a reason, and probably because he is a good dude, there's a reason he sticks around so long. Guys who could stay in the NFL for, I don't think he's been a decade yet, but probably getting close to it. guys who stay around as a backup, like Chase Daniel, who we briefly mentioned, is the backup now in Los Angeles.
Chad
Chad
Henne
Henne,
is
yeah.
still in the league.
Yeah, obviously they're good locker room guys, and they're smart. They probably do things to help the number one get ready every week. It's so Teddy Bridgewater will have a job as a backup quarterback until he chooses to retire. They're
Absolutely.
just good glue guys, and that's what I think Brissett is. It's unfortunate for him. He just keeps getting caught in scenarios where he has to start. I feel like that's unlucky almost. And I hate to say it, kind of demeaning way, frankly, but you Chase Daniel, what has he started? 2-3 games, I think, for the Bears. I mean, he's never really had to justify why he has an NFL job. He just cashes checks.
Right. Well, and the thing was, when Brissett got on the field last year, he just looked old. He looked NFL old, right? I mean, and stiff. And maybe that's just something that can be worked out, and you work on mobility and those things. He just, and well, I mean, to his credit, Miami's offensive line was non-existent last year. So, I mean, he didn't have a lot of time to operate, but, we'll see. Jacoby could, have one of those rebirth, right?
I wouldn't bet on it.
No. But so I think we're right here. I don't know what S stands for. We should find out before we do the NFC.
Probably a good idea.
but for us, it's that's the star level. That's what we'll call it, star level. And then we'll drop the A, B, C, and D.
I think So people watching this, give us some feedback. What do you think? Tell us why we're wrong. Tell us what we're wrong about. I stand by it. I think it makes a lot of sense. In hindsight, I'm like, I wish there was a class between S and A where I could put Joe Burrow.
Just a little bit, right? Look, I'll tell you this.
He's better than Derek Carr, but he's not. I don't think he's quite to the Allen Mahomes Herbert position.
I'll tell you, we started off with a really nice tasting AFC to go through, right? For a great appetizer. It's a great appetizer for this whole show. The NFC one, man, our entree is going to taste like shit, brother. The quarterback in the NFC. Jesus.
We're going to fill out the bottom of this thing real fast.
The bottom half of our bracket will be filled out in the NFC.
Yeah, I think honestly, the NFC, just sneak peeking at it, I think we're going to have a few in that, at least two, I would say, in that S star tier. I think we're going to have way more than that in that D too.
Yeah, it's brutal over there. Like, it's brutal over there.
Hey,
so
I think I could make an argument Jameis Winston is a top 5 quarterback in the NFC, and I like Jameis. I think he's gonna have a good year. That still says something, that you could make an argument that he's top 5 in the conference at this point. Ooh,
yeah, that 100%, dude. There's a lot of big question marks in the NFC. It really, I don't remember, and again, my memory gets shot as I get older, but I don't remember such a huge disparity or like between the conferences as much. Like, I mean, it really truly is. The AFC is so heavyweight where the NFC is.
I think the only time, and I was very, very young, but I was talking to my son, oddly enough, about this recently. I think the only time I can recall a disparity like this was the early 90s, where the NFC, the Bills went to 4 straight Super Bowls, and in 3 of them, they just got destroyed.
Yeah.
I look at the NFC back then. I was a child, but like I remember those Saints teams were even good, but they were clearly behind the 49ers and the Cowboys, and usually the Giants and sometimes Washington. It was just like, I don't know if the Bills would have made the playoffs every year. Probably the 4 years they went to the Super Bowl, but that's how I remember it that way. Again, I was a kid,
No, that's a good call though, because I mean, I remember even the Vikings were good, in the Chris Carter years and stuff, and they were having trouble getting in. Green Bay was always around with Favre, and then the Dallas teams were just ridiculous. And then San Francisco, the Giants sneaking in. Yeah, I think you're right. And really, when you looked at the AFC, there really weren't teams that could compete like that. Not at all.
I think before our time, I'm guessing it was probably like that in the mid to late 70s too, with the Steelers, Raiders, and Dolphins. I think kind of head and shoulders above the rest of the league. I'd have to ask my dad about that. Way before I was born.
I'm just scanning over our whole board here, and the only teams we can never say were truly in that dominant phase are Detroit. Like Houston even had a good squad and got the playoffs. Jacksonville made a run at one time. The Jets have been pretty mediocre, I think, my entire life. I mean, they did have years, but they've been pretty mediocre.
Say that's about it. Mediocre is a compliment.
Yeah, that's true. It's only because I like my boy Zach Wilson so much.
Yeah. Well, he's got the attitude, I think. Let's see if he could do it on the field, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, just hats off on everything. Like the rumors come out about him hooking up with his mom's best friend, and then the next thing you see is him at a Yankees game with a 20-year-old Instagram model. Like, I just want to be Zach for a day. Just for a day.
Yeah, it would probably be a good life.
Look, I'd convert to Mormonism. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what they teach, but I have to go watch a South Park episode. It'll teach me everything I need to
know. There you go.
So, hey, next week we'll be back here, and we'll be doing the NFC version of this. So, to anyone watching this who has thoughts on, they want to get pre-angry about where we rate the quarterbacks in the NFC on this little graph, go ahead. Start hitting us up on Twitter. Start telling us why we need to rank certain people different. You can tag FL teams or Jeremiah or myself.
Yeah.
Let us hear your thoughts about why we're wrong or why we're right. But usually comments aren't positive. It's just the way way the world.
Shoot your shot, Kirk Cousins supporters. Tell me why.
Oh, I'm going to tell you that's going to be a guy we're probably going to disagree on. Be ready for it. I'm going to come with the Kirk Cousins stats locked and loaded.
and we're totally going to disagree on Jameis, but that's completely fair.
Yeah, and part of it's like I don't know if it's being a homer, but probably.
Yeah, look, the guy has potential. We'll get into it next week, but the guy has potential. It's there, and he has weapons.
Absolutely. Well, folks, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. Join us again next week for this. Let us know your thoughts on our AFC rankings, what you're looking for in the NFC. I'm going to have Tom Brady in the D tier, obviously. Right? Yeah. But hey, wherever, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, follow FL teams on all those things. All the links are below. And follow Jeremiah and I on all those things too, if I have them. I don't know.
And make sure you check out our faithful leader Isaac Edelman on his Summer of Isaac tour, heading all over the country, getting all the
coming to a city near you.
Yeah, coming to a city near you. It's like what were the Flat Stanley or where's Waldo?
Yeah.
Like, Flat Stanley. Where I saw him in Delaware.
Yep. Hey, there's Isaac with Mike Breen. What's going on here?
It's good times.
It's good stuff. Thank you all for joining us. We will see you back here next week. If I can find a way to play us out, boom, here we go. Peace.